Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. It's another week in May. It's so hard to tell what day it is while we're all on lockdown, but I hope everyone is staying safe out there. And thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Today is one of those super exciting days when I have someone on who is all the way on the other side of the world. I know occasionally we get a UK author, and I think we had someone from Greece, but today we have somebody visiting from Europe in Germany, and it's Anna Lowe, USA Today best-selling author Anna Lowe. And if you are not familiar with her work, I'm going to go ahead and read her bio here so you can get to know her. USA Today and Amazon best-selling author Anna Lowe loves putting the hero back in heroine and letting location ignite passionate romance. She loves dogs, sports, and travel, and letting the latter inspire her fiction. If she's not hunched over her laptop working on her latest story, you'll find her hiking in the mountains or biking country roads. Either way, the day will end with a chunk of dark chocolate and a good read, which is right, perfect world. So without any further ado, Anna, are you there?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I also forgot to mention to the people who are listening that Anna has a couple free audiobooks and stories that she'll give you when you sign up for her newsletter. So I did put a link to her website right there on the Blog Talk site. So if you're listening live, you can click that anytime and sign up, and then you'll instantly have free reading material. So don't forget. So Anna, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Yeah, despite some of the craziness in the world, we're counting our blessings every day. I will, just a quick correction, well, not a correction. I do have 2 free audiobooks. You don't even have to sign up to get them. They're on my website, and maybe at the end, or shall I give you the link now, or how should you do that?
Well, if they go to your website, is there something they should click on there to get them?
Yeah, okay, yeah. If you just go to annalowebooks.com, there's an audio tab, and right at the top, it directs you to my free audiobooks, and I also have some box sets, etc. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning, and people can go straight there. There's also a tab that says free where you can sign up for my newsletter and get even more goodies, but that's the start.
Yay! All right. So, I know you're way far away from me, but are things warming up out there? Are you guys still stuck inside like we are, or what are you guys doing?
No, we've had a couple of weeks. We've had a gorgeous couple of weeks, and yeah, it feels very much like summertime. I'm a little bit scared that it's going to be one of these things where you get the nice summer in May, and then when proper summer comes, then it's not very nice. But we shall see.
It's super hot.
Yeah, but we'll just take it one day at a time. We're in a beautiful part of the world, and it's just, yeah, it's a good time to be here, good place to be.
Right. Well, I was poking around trying to find out, what's the newest book, and you have so many things cooking all at the same time. You have translations, you have audiobooks, you have ebooks. Don't you have like 2 books coming out this month, right?
Yeah, I have one. Let's see. I have Fire Maidens Ireland. That's the book 5 in my latest Fire Maiden series. That's coming out soon. And I have 2 German books coming up in the next. So going through my backlist, I'm getting those translated now into German, and those are coming out. So I've steadily getting things out. And after a huge delay, oh my God, Audible is the process of making an audiobook. It's a lot of fun, where you have your manuscript, or say the script, let's say, and I send it to my wonderful narrator, Kelsey Osborne. She works it all up. She checks the text side, and we send it off to Audible, and they have like a quality control. And I can attest that the quality is perfect. And we sent that to them for book 4, which is Fire Maidens Portugal. I sent that to them in January. They only just made it live now. It is amazing.
No.
They are so behind. Yes. So my poor audio fans are like, you said this book was coming soon. So it's finally out. Fire Maidens Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just learning how. I have books out in audio, but they had bought the rights from my publisher, so I wasn't involved. So my self-pub series, I just started doing audio myself through ACX. So I was learning how, and my narrator warned me. We finished book 1 and it went in for quality control, and she said, now we wait forever. So we're already starting on book 2, but I didn't realize forever was that long. Wow. I thought it was going to be out by the end of the month. No, huh?
Oh, it was like a new record, slow. Like in the past, the fastest they've ever done one was actually like 10 days, 10 calendar days. And I even wrote to them going, wow, I'm amazed. That's wonderful. And my letters, unfortunately, this time around were quite a different tone.
This time it was, where is my book?
Yes.
Well, Congratulations. I'm so glad it's out now. So what can you tell our listeners who haven't read you before? I know the Fire Maidens is dragons, right?
Yes, well, it's mostly dragons. I started out writing wolf shifters, which I just love with my Twin Moon series, and then I kind of branched into bears in my Blue Moon Saloon series, and those were in the desert Southwest in Arizona, kind of your part of the world, or where some.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And then I went on to my Aloha Shifter series because Hawaii, right? And that was really mixed. I had so much fun mixing the species. So I had 5 guys. So I have 5 retired Special Forces guys. Well, they've left the Special Forces, and now they're back in civilian life, and it's kind of a Magnum PI kind of deal where they have a caretaker's job on a ritzy estate, private estate in Hawaii. And it was so much fun mixing. So I've got a dragon, a bear, a tiger, a wolf, and who am I missing? Another dragon, sorry. So the dragons are a little bit snobby and a little bit noble, and the bear is kind of slow and kind of, he's pouring honey carefully over his toast in the morning. And the tiger doesn't trust anybody, and he's always pacing around the edges. So I have really a lot of fun with different types of shifters there, and I've carried that over to my Fire Maiden series, which is based mostly on dragons. So the concept of a Fire Maiden is it's these young women who are descended from a great legendary dragon queen from many centuries ago, whose daughters were kind of placed in all different cities, London, Rome, Paris, all around Europe, to kind of protect, to keep the peace among shifters, and that carries over to the human world. That's the premise. And that they have all but died out, and so you have young women who just by chance have traveling, or they get pulled into this world that they didn't know about. So that's kind of the dragon angle, but sometimes the bodyguards assigned to them are that they of course fall in love with, because bodyguards, right?
Right.
So they might be wolves, they might be lions, they might be dragons, et cetera, et cetera. So I have fun playing off. You can get a great kind of I don't know, what's a comedy duo? And not that these are all pure comedies, but those like 2 characters that can really rub off each other, like the dragon rolling his eyes at the bear going, not again, this kind of thing. It's fun.
Right. And what is it about paranormal romance that you love? What made you write in that genre?
Yeah, it's I love how it's a total escape. As much as I love my life, and I know right. We could always use an escape, and a romantic escape even better. And there's something about shifters, particularly, that just resonated with me right away, because I guess I love dogs. That's maybe how I started. And as a kid, I always pictured a kind of a Dr. Dolittle life with being able to talk to the animals and this kind of thing. And I guess somehow as an adult that turns into shifters. And it's just you can just pull yourself. It pulls you out of your day-to-day life and just transports you to a different world. And I've always, location's really important to me, and somehow those two fit together really well. Like how you can get almost a really atmospheric location, like a kind of a deserted street, with cobblestones in Paris at night, or the desert in Arizona, the high altitude desert, the wind swirling in and the storm coming in. And somehow that to me goes so well with the kind of dark, dangerous side of Shifters. Not that my books are dark, they have some very lighthearted moments as well, but somehow it just really clicked with my love of place. I love to travel, and I love those really special places. And somehow the Shifter thing just seemed to fit perfectly, and you can kind of play them off each other. The atmosphere of the world, the actual location, and the characters themselves.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, because all of your series seem to be, they're all set in some, exotic location and that kind of thing. Did you travel to all of them? I mean, were they all, I always call it a book research adventure. I go on these adventures because I like to actually be there, because you can get things that you can't get from Google, like how it smells or where people go eat ice cream and stuff like that. Have you gone to all these exotic places?
Yes, and it's exactly what I try to do, is to bring the readers there with me. And somebody, I wish I had the quote. I had a lovely review. It was so sweet. Somebody said, I can't remember, gosh, but it was something like, reading the book is like going to a different place. And it started, my very first paranormal book. When I sat down, I thought, I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm gonna write my own. And I thought, where is this going to be? And I thought, what is my most special atmospheric place? And at that point, I thought, I'm going to make it Arizona, because at one point it worked in very much a similar setting where the books are set, in a remote ranch. So I lived and worked there for a couple of years. Hawaii, I've never lived there, but I spent 3 months traveling all the islands of Hawaii, and I made a trip back to kind of refresh. And like you said, the sights, the sounds, the taste, I discovered whole new meals on that more recent trip, where I thought, I've got to talk about them going out for, poke bowl. That kind of thing. The Fire Maidens are set in Europe, and of course I live in Europe, and I've been all over anyway. So the first few books were Paris, Fire Maidens Paris, Fire Maidens London, Fire Maidens Rome. Those are the first three. Of course, those are cities I've been to and I've loved, and they inspired me. But then I also made a specific trip to each of those with Shifters in mind, and that is so much fun. For example, I went to London. I'm like, okay, and I had a couple of ideas, and I knew London well, so I didn't have to, do the tourist things again, which of course is wonderful to do. But it was so fun to go to London as a writer and just look around. And it was going to be a dragon story, but the more I looked around London, of course, the symbol of England is a lion, right? And there are lions everywhere. There's like statues and lion symbols and lion like doorknobs, and that it was so much fun turning it into this whole the snobby lions who run the place and the dragons who are kind of looked down on. And it's so much fun to pull stuff like that out of it. So I've been to all the places. Most of them I was at ahead of time, and that's why I specifically wanted to write the book. But, for example, Portugal I had not been to, and I made a trip there specifically to research the book. And
I usually blog when I go on a book research adventure, because for me, mishaps almost always happen. Like a million years ago for my first series, I wrote these Mayan vampires. So I wanted to go to the Yucatan, and back then you could climb Chichen Itza. So I went up not thinking the stairs were so narrow, and so you crawled up. And there's no railing, and I got up to the top and looked around, and I'm terrified of heights. So I'm up there with my 2 kids who were little then, and I remember looking around and telling my daughter, I'm going to need a helicopter. And the kids were like, Mama, we'll sit, we'll scoot down. I was like, I don't think I can get down. I was up there panting until I could get down. So anyway, that went in a blog, and I wrote a series, where I went up to Lake Tahoe, and the day we decided to drive up, like this blizzard came in, and I'm in this rent car, and people are sliding off the road, and I'm going, oh my God, we're going to die on book research. So of course the book had to have there was a sudden snow. Have you had experiences like that when you go on your trips for research that end up in the book?
Absolutely, yeah. And you totally made me laugh. I remember coaching my mom down Chichen Itza as a teenager. That was because you don't think about it.
Oh, you did too, yeah.
It's so steep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you go up and you have no idea.
But because your emotions were, at that extreme, you can write it and then it comes out in a whole different way than, you're writing a place you've never been to. So absolutely. A lot of them, I guess I would call it happy accidents. Like I meant to do this, but something else. I guess like in London again, for some reason that's jumping out. I was heading out to Kew Gardens, which is outside London. And I thought, because there's a cute little thatched cottage there. It was Queen, somebody or other's like getaway. And that was my intention. But then I found out that like it was closed and I couldn't get there. And they're like, I'm 45 minutes outside of London. What a bummer. But the next stop on that tube line is Richmond, a beautiful little suburb of London. It's right on the Thames. With these really fancy, this kind of like manors in one part of that town. And then you walk up a hill and there's a huge, it used to be a former hunting grounds, I think of one of the kings. So that ended up becoming like one of the a huge setting for the lion hero. His relatives his snobby relatives are based there in Richmond. But it was so much fun. Just, I would never have made it Richmond. I would have, maybe you would have said, Kensington, one of those famous places in London. But it's nice to kind of pull people in a different direction. Or Rome, we got a lovely hotel, and it's nice because I get to go with my family. And being in Europe, it's just, I could take a 3-day weekend and go to Rome. The way when I used to live in Boston, I could, I might go to Vermont for the weekend. No, I can go to Rome.
Right.
Right. And the hotel was in the Gianicolo district. I guess, the 7 hills of Rome, and it's one of them. And you're looking out from the hotel at breakfast. They had like a rooftop breakfast. The next, or maybe 2 houses over, was this beautiful old villa with a kind of a crenellated tower, like a castle-like tower. And I was like, boom, that's my dragon's lair right there. So you can really find the real house that you put your hero or heroine or bad guy or whoever you're putting in there.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I love that, and I love the idea that you missed your one place, so you just got off the subway and there's this new place, and I think those are calling them happy accidents is a good way to say it. But I always feel like I was lucky enough to meet Ray Bradbury a couple times before he died, and he used to talk about that with fiction there's some kind of superconscious that wants stories told. Humans been telling stories since before they could write, and so the superconscious wants these stories to get told, and it if you're lucky enough that it downloads one in your brain, he used to say put the hero on the page and just follow him and take notes, and he was really into letting the story happen. And I feel like when we go on book research and we get tugged and things happen and you end up, maybe it's meant to be.
Exactly. I love that kind of, almost afterwards it feels like serendipitous. It was meant to be. Like in the middle of it, you're like, oh gosh, this did not go according to plan. But that's the great thing about travel. And I love, to me, that connection, the adventure of travel, spilling over into the adventure of a story, and then I can live it, and it's really fun for me to write, and really fun, hopefully, for people to read. Even if you're not a traveler, and people are not into packing their bags and dealing with it, the weights and the food and the delays, and obviously there's inconveniences as well, but it's great whether you like to do it in person or not. I think it's always fun to do through a book.
Yes, because in a book you can do it from your couch in your sweatpants.
Exactly. Whenever you feel like it, and you can reread.
That's right.
You can go back
That's
to the
right.
good parts and yeah.
So I always ask, because we always have readers who think about writing or whatever, but I want to know what your writing journey looked like. Did you always want to be a writer? Did you fall into it? Were you traveling and reading an Anne Rice book and going, hey, let's write my own paranormal? Or, what was your journey like?
Yeah, I think I'm probably like a lot of authors. So as a kid, I wrote a lot of funny little stories involving, my classmates. We off would go on little adventures, and I wrote these little tiny, little half-page stories. And I loved doing it, and I got good, teachers are really nice about that, about, like kind of encouraging you, oh, why don't you write another one, and this kind of thing. But of course, like many people, it didn't seem like a viable profession. And for many years, maybe in a sense, it was an unlikely profession, because there are a lot of obstacles, and there's a lot of, no matter how good a writer you are, there's a certain degree of chance in there. So I didn't really pursue it. I let it fizzle. But I always have been a kind of imaginative person. So I cannot go to a movie or read a book without then making it better in my mind, and inserting my own scenes or rewriting. Like, it would have been so much better if that heroine was much more capable than they made her, right? So I start rewriting it, with a better heroine or in a different place. And so I have like a number of storylines always running in my head, kind of for my own entertainment. And then at one point I was on vacation and I read my first paranormal romance. I had no idea. This is like 7 years ago. I had no idea it was a thing. I had no idea.
Right.
And there was like a wolf shifter here. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Because not only can you have your dream guy, your dream guy can do this absolutely amazing thing, and maybe you can too. You can enter that world just yourself. So it's, I guess, a little crossover with urban fantasy, a little bit magical, mystical kind of elements to it. But I had never written, went through college as an adult, blah, blah, blah. So I'm in my late 40s. I read my first paranormal romance. And by that point, I have written a few travel guidebooks. So I knew the writing process, and I had self-published a couple of nonfiction books. And I thought, well, wait a minute, sometimes you read it. That very first paranormal I read, it was fun, but it wasn't really well written. And I don't know if, I'm sure you're like this, and many people listening, you've read a book and you're like, that could be improved.
Right.
Like, well, if that book got published, why the heck, and I know my story is so much more exciting, and it didn't have much of a setting. And I'm like, wow, if that had been set in, in Shanghai, what a story it would have made. And so actually at that time I was on vacation. I was like, okay, what's holding me back? I'll just sit down and write. And I did, and I published it, and it kind of unrolled from there, so that I was working a full-time job at the moment, and I love that. At that moment I was working a full-time job. I love that job, but I started writing more and more, to the point that now I'm only part-time with my other job. So I can dedicate that much more time to writing. So I feel like I'm as busy as a full-time writer. I have two full-time jobs is the way I look at it. But I will mention to anybody,
because I looked on your on what you've got cooking. I'm like, wow, she's very busy.
On, yeah. But life is good. Better busy than not busy. And really early on, I was really inspired by an author interview I heard with a guy. His name is Wayne Stinnett, and he writes, I don't know, like Marine Corps mystery, something like that. Like a guy, the genre has nothing to do with it, but his story was so inspiring to me. He was a truck driver, and he had all these stories that he wanted to write, and he would drive his long distance routes across North America, and he promised himself he would write 500 words every night, no matter what. So he'd be hunkered down in his little cab. I guess they have like a little camp out, little part that they can sleep in. And he would write his 500 words. And I was like, it doesn't, I've got kids, I've got work, but I can do 500 words a day. And that's how I started. And then it becomes a habit, like exercise. When you're first doing it, you have to drag yourself out like, oh my God, what am I doing going to the pool at this hour of the morning? But once it becomes a habit, you just do it. There's not that whole convincing yourself or making excuses. So obviously it takes some discipline, but is really doable. And it's an escape too. So it's not a chore. It's not another job. It's like a hobby that I get to do as a job.
Right. I think that your love of that comes through in your writing too. When you love what you're doing, it makes a big difference. At least I feel like I read a lot, and as a reader, I can tell when it's a book that a publisher said, hey, this is hot right now, write this, or a book where the author's whole heart is in it. You can totally tell. At least Absolutely. I feel like I can.
Yeah, I totally agree that it just pops off the page, yeah. But sometimes it's unexpected. Sometimes the stories that I go into, I'm like, it might be book 4 or 5, and I kind of ended, let's say it's a book 4, like, where was I? Yeah, I had my Blue Moon Swoon, book 3 was supposed to end the series, and in it there's a reference to a bear who was a relative who unfortunately died in helping another relative escape something, right? And I wrote that book, and it's just like a side mention. And one of my readers wrote back to me and said, what if he didn't die? What if they thought he died, but he survived? And he was like the father of the baby, but now the baby's been adopted by somebody who did survive. And I was like, whoa, what if he didn't die? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this incredible, like one of the most emotional stories that I've written, and it worked. So yeah, sometimes it's just sheer inspiration. You can just totally write what pops into your mind, and sometimes you get yourself into this impossible situation, but with just that, I don't know, what do you call it, like the flicker of a candle, like just all of a sudden one little comment will just ignite a whole new storyline. And that series ended up going to 6 books just because of that reader's comment. It started me on book 4 and got me so excited about it. So it's funny how things go.
Well, and that's the cool thing about indie publishing is that I'm a hybrid. So when I publish with my publisher, I have a certain contract for how many books, but I wanted to do indie, so I started the Muse Chronicles, and I had planned it out that it was going to be 6 books. And so anyway, in the end of book 3, there's this fire, and it was supposed to kill one of the muses, but there was this carpenter character who was in there, and all of a sudden he rescued her. And I thought, wait, what? And then I realized, oh my gosh, there's no way he would have let her die in the fire. And so I had to email my cover artist and go, okay, I think we're going to need one more. And so instead, the series had 7 books, and that ended up being one of my favorite books in the series. I'm like, wow, what do I know? But it's really cool doing indie publishing that you can be that flexible and follow where the story goes, don't you think? I love that.
And I love being in touch with readers because I write the story, but they get one little comment, and off I go in a different direction, all thanks to them. Nobody's ever said, please write this book. But just the funny little things that they just also something clicks then in my mind. So it's the great thing about the direct connection to readers. So I love hearing from people. It just adds a whole new dimension to it.
Totally agree. And gosh, I have so much more that I want to ask you about. So we'll have to do this again sometime because we're gonna run out of time here very quickly. But before we go, can you tell us, do we need to start at the beginning of each series, or does each book stand alone? Can we jump in anywhere? What do you think is best?
Yeah, I write them as standalone. But it's kind of richer. You pick up on the inside jokes and everything if you start at the beginning of a given series. So the first one, Fire Maiden's Paris, would be one, or Lure of the Dragon from my Aloha Shifter series. And I'm priced, the first book in the series is always 99 cents to make it easy to, you never know, you don't necessarily want to commit at that point, so it's easy for readers to explore where they want to start. So absolutely, you can jump in. Fire Maidens Ireland is coming out at the end of this month. Absolutely, you can jump right in. There's a little bit of funny little things in the backstory that you wouldn't pick up on if you didn't start at book one, but you can start anywhere.
Oh, great. I always tell people I write them standalone, but I hope you fall in love with it and go, I want to go back to the beginning, right?
Excellent. Yes, exactly right.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for being here, Anna. It was so great talking to you, and we'll have to do it again later.
That would be great, Lisa. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.
The Hollywood Reporter is your ultimate source for awards race news this fall. Go to thr.com to keep up with this award season's expert predictions from executive editor Scott Feinberg, and tune into the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast for exclusive interviews with the biggest names in showbiz. Stay in the loop with daily newsletters providing real-time updates on all the awards action. Subscribe to thr.com for full access to the Hollywood Reporter and never miss a moment of this fall awards season. Visit thr.com today.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.